Your real life doesn't start when you graduate, not when you get the job, not when they finally understand you, not when you're loved the way you think you deserve. Your real life begins the moment you stop living as a reflection and start living as a force. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this. Most people don't live, they perform. They obey. They imitate. They follow a script written by someone else. One day they wake up empty. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded at becoming exactly what the world asked of them. They followed the rules. They stayed quiet. They were good. They were safe. And now they don't know who they are. Because somewhere along the way they forgot the truth. Your life isn't yours until you choose it. Choosing it means breaking things. It means rejection. It means terrifying others with how far you're willing to go for your truth. It means becoming what Nietzsche respected most, an individual with the courage to stand alone. But that's hard, isn't it? From birth, we are told survival means belonging. Success means fitting in. Happiness means being chosen by parents, teachers, lovers, society. So we adapt. We shape-shift. We suppress. We trade power for peace. We trade selfhood for acceptance. We trade reality for approval. And then we wonder why we feel fake in rooms full of people. Why success feels hollow. Why no amount of praise makes us feel real. Nietzsche would tell you, he who cannot obey himself will be commanded by others. And that's what you've been doing. Obeying everything but yourself. Here's the moment where that ends. Not the version of you that pleases. Not the version that plays small so others feel safe. The version that disrupts. That questions. That rises. Your real life begins where comfort ends. Where masks come off. Where the applause stops mattering. Where your soul gets louder than your doubt. This doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't come with age. It doesn't happen just because you're in pain. Plenty suffer without waking up. You're here because something inside you refuses to keep pretending. Tired of waiting. Tired of living for the approval of people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared. Nietzsche would tell you, you've wasted enough time. It's time to reclaim yourself. To stop asking permission. To stop softening your edge. Comfort has lied to you. It told you staying quiet would keep you safe. That avoiding failure would make you happy. But here you are, exhausted, unfulfilled. Not because you risked too much, but because you risked nothing. Nietzsche's truth is simple. Become who you are. Not who they expect. Not who they applaud. Not who they can control. To do that, you must destroy everything that isn't you. The fake smiles. The yes to avoid conflict. The careers chosen for approval. The friendships kept to avoid loneliness. Your nervous system has been trained to equate authenticity with danger. As a child, being real got you punished. Being loud got you shamed. Being different got you labeled. So you learned to shrink. But Nietzsche didn't believe in shrinking. He believed in rising, even alone. Especially alone. True life begins when you're willing to be rejected to stay true to yourself. When you choose truth over imitation. When you live not for applause, but from the deep, uncompromised center of your being. Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that privilege has a cost. Not money, certainty. To become your true self, you must give up the predictable life. The one that kept you almost alive but never fully awake. The greatest risk is not failure. It's staying asleep. Performing success while burying the version of you that was never meant to be controlled. The moment you become fully yourself, you become untouchable. Not everyone will come with you. Not everyone will understand. But you didn't come here to be understood. You came here to be undeniable. Marcus Aurelius said, no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. So the question is, Have you paid it yet? Because if you haven't, life will keep pressing on you until you choose. Keep obeying a world that doesn't care if you lose yourself, or walk away and risk everything to meet the version of you that's truly alive. That version doesn't fear being disliked, doesn't perform for comfort, speaks when it matters, walks alone when necessary. And that's when life begins. When you stop mistaking acceptance for belonging, performance for value, obedience for peace. It begins when you leave the room where everyone knows your name and find the one where you finally know yourself. Change is not the greatest risk. Staying the same is. People fear change because it threatens stability. They imagine disaster. They imagine losing everything. But what they fail to see is the slow erosion of self that comes from never moving at all. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." If you refuse to change, you are not avoiding risk, you are surrendering to it in silence. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you pay a price. Sometimes it's obvious, missed opportunities, stale relationships, a life that feels too small. Sometimes it's subtle, loss of curiosity, erosion of confidence, a quiet despair that you can't name. We convince ourselves that staying put is safer, that doing what we know will protect us. But safety can be an illusion. One day you wake up and realize you built your life to avoid pain, and in doing so you avoided living. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And that's the danger of staying the same. It keeps you breathing, but it keeps you from being alive. The mind adapts to patterns. What was once uncomfortable becomes tolerable. What was once tolerable becomes normal. And what becomes normal becomes invisible, even if it's killing you slowly. Sometimes the greatest enemy is not the struggle in front of you, but the quiet comfort that dulls your edge. Comfort asks nothing of you. It demands no courage, no confrontation, no evolution. Machiavelli understood this in politics. The leader who avoids necessary risk eventually loses power. Not because they were overthrown, but because they became irrelevant. When you stay the same, you stop challenging your own story. You live inside old definitions. You let past versions of yourself dictate the present. Jung believed the self is meant to integrate and expand. Refusing change is like locking a seed in a box. It will never rot, but it will never grow. Fear tells you change will hurt. And it's right, it will. But so does staying in a life that no longer fits. The difference is that the pain of change transforms you. The pain of staying the same only diminishes you. Think about the people you've known for years. Some are not different at all. Still repeating the same complaints, still living in the same cycles, still blaming the same circumstances. You can predict their conversations before they open their mouth. Because nothing has moved, not in their mind, not in their heart, not in their choices. Now think about yourself. Where have you stopped moving? Where are you rehearsing an old life because it feels safe? Nietzsche said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." That chaos is the discomfort of change. It's the friction of becoming something you've never been before. To avoid it is to avoid your own potential. To step into it is to ignite it. The cost of staying the same is paid in slow invisibility. In a life that looks fine on the outside but feels empty inside. In dreams you've convinced yourself you no longer want. And here's the truth, you will pay a price either way. You will pay in the currency of fear if you change. You will pay in the currency of regret if you don't. The question is not whether it will cost you. The question is, what do you want in return? If you choose change, you will lose people. You will lose certainty. You will lose the comfort of being predictable. but you will gain yourself. You will gain the respect that comes from not abandoning your own evolution. You will gain a life that is alive, even if it's not always easy. Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." If you stay the same, you are choosing to become nothing more than you already are. If you change, you are choosing to become everything you could be. The choice is not between risk and safety. It is between growth and slow decay. And the moment you see that clearly, you realize the cost of staying the same is far too high. Every yes you give costs something. It costs time. It costs energy. It costs focus. But most people say yes without thinking. They say it to avoid conflict. They say it to please. They say it because silence feels heavier than agreement. Carl Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Your yes might suit someone else's needs perfectly, but it might be crushing your own. Every time you say yes to something you don't believe in, you are saying no to something you do. Every time you agree to carry a weight that isn't yours, you put down part of yourself. People often mistake compliance for kindness. But kindness without boundaries is not kindness, it is self-erasure. Machiavelli wrote, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." Sometimes the yes you gave yesterday no longer fits who you are today. Sometimes the yes was given from fear, not alignment. And when that happens, the most honest thing you can do is take it back. The problem is, most people fear the consequences of withdrawal. They fear being seen as unreliable, selfish, or cold. So they keep carrying commitments that drain them. And slowly their life becomes a museum of old agreements. Yes, that once made sense. Yes, they can't remember giving. Yes, they resent but still uphold. Jung believed that saying yes unconsciously is a form of self-abandonment. You stop checking if the choice aligns with who you've become. You keep living under rules you no longer believe in. The truth is, a yes should feel like a clear choice, not a reluctant surrender. It should come from a place of ownership, not obligation. It should expand you, not shrink you. When you start valuing your yes, you stop giving it away so cheaply. You start asking, does this align with my values? Does this respect my time? Does this cost me more than it gives? And sometimes the answer is no. And that no is not cruelty. It is clarity. Nietzsche said, "No is the most necessary of all words for those who wish to live honestly." Saying no protects the integrity of your yes. It keeps your word from becoming background noise. When your yes means something, people listen when you give it. They trust that it's real. They know it carries weight because you don't give it to everyone. Yes is not a default. It is a currency. Spend it without thought and you go bankrupt. Spend it with intention, and it gains value over time. And yes, people will push back when you stop giving it so easily. They will notice the change. They will test your boundaries. They will call you difficult when they can no longer use your compliance. But the people who respect you will adapt. They will adjust to the reality that your agreement is earned, not assumed. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Your yes is a statement of truth. If it is not true for you, it is a lie you tell to keep the peace, and that peace will cost you more than the conflict ever could. So weigh your yes. Give it only when it feels solid in your bones. Protect it like the commitment it is, because the life you end up with is not built by the things you say no to. It is built by the yes you decide are worth everything they cost. No is one of the smallest words you can speak, and one of the hardest. It is the word that protects your time. It is the word that guards your energy. It is the word that shapes the life you live. Yet most people treat it like a weapon that must be hidden. They avoid it. They soften it. They bury it under long explanations, hoping it won't sound too harsh. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Saying no is part of that acceptance. It is admitting what you can and cannot give. It is refusing to betray yourself for the sake of pleasing someone else. When you can't say no, you live in a constant state of overextension. You agree to things that exhaust you. You take on responsibilities that aren't yours. You become a caretaker for other people's comfort while abandoning your own. Machiavelli understood that power lies in selective engagement. The leader who says yes to every demand quickly loses authority. The leader who says no when necessary earns respect, even from those who disagree. No is a boundary in its purest form. It doesn't require anger. It doesn't require an apology. It requires clarity. Clarity about your priorities. Clarity about your limits. Clarity about what truly matters to you. Nietzsche said, "Freedom is the will to be responsible for ourselves." Saying no is the practice of that responsibility. It is choosing not to give your time, your presence, or your energy to what does not serve you. The discipline comes in resisting the urge to explain yourself. You do not owe a detailed defense for protecting your well-being. You do not need to convince someone your no is valid. When you over-explain, you turn your boundary into a negotiation. And boundaries are not debates, they are decisions. Yes, some people will resent your no. They will call you selfish, difficult, or unhelpful. But that reaction reveals more about their entitlement than your integrity. The people who respect you will respect your no. They may not like it, but they will adapt to it. Carl Jung also said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And you cannot become that person while saying yes to everything that pulls you away from yourself. No is not rejection, it is protection. It is the act of preserving space for the things that truly deserve your yes. When you master the discipline of saying no, you stop living reactively. You stop shaping your life around other people's urgency. You stop making decisions from guilt or fear. Instead, you make them from alignment, from self-respect, from the quiet knowing that every no you speak makes your next yes stronger. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not essential, do not do it." No is how you strip your life down to the essential. It is how you create room for the relationships, the work, and the experiences that actually matter. You will not be remembered for how much you accommodated. You will be remembered for the strength of what you chose to stand for. And every no you speak with conviction is a step toward becoming that person. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates. They don't shut the world out. They decide what comes in. And they decide what must stay out. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Boundaries begin with that acceptance. They are built on the knowledge of what strengthens you and what destroys you. Without that, every gate you build will swing open to the wrong hands. Most people think boundaries are about control. They are not. They are about responsibility. They are about protecting the space where your life happens. Machiavelli observed that a ruler who cannot control access will lose authority. The same is true for the individual. If everyone can reach you at any time, you will spend your life reacting instead of creating. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They tell the world, "This is where I end and you begin." Nietzsche said, "No one can build you the bridge on which you, and only you, must cross the river of life." Boundaries are that bridge. They allow you to walk your own path without being pulled into every passing current. When you have no boundaries, you give your time to things that don't matter. You give your energy to people who don't value it. You give your life to noise instead of meaning. Boundaries require you to tolerate discomfort. Some people will push back. Some will try to make you feel guilty. Some will leave when they realize you are no longer easy to access. But their leaving is not a loss. It is a filter. It reveals who was there for connection and who was there for convenience. Carl Jung also said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You cannot become that person while living under the constant pull of others' demands. Boundaries create the stillness needed for selfhood to grow. The freedom of boundaries is not in isolation, it's in choice. You choose where your attention goes. You choose who gets your energy. You choose what your life will hold. Boundaries also protect joy. They keep space for the things that matter most. Without them, your passions get pushed aside for other people's emergencies. Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Boundaries are how you protect that way of thinking. They make sure your mind is not constantly hijacked by the chaos around you. When you have strong boundaries, you no longer fear saying no. You no longer need to explain your limits. You no longer trade your peace for approval. Boundaries are the architecture of freedom. They are how you design a life that feels like yours. And the deeper truth is, when you protect your own boundaries, you teach others to do the same. You show them it's possible to be kind and firm, generous and discerning, available and still untouchable. Boundaries are not the end of connection. They are the beginning of real connection. Because only when you are whole can you meet others as equals, not as someone shrinking to fit into their space, but as someone standing in your own. The freedom of boundaries is the freedom to live without resentment, to give without depletion, to love without losing yourself. And that is not just self-protection. It is self-respect. It is the foundation of a life worth living.